That cat. Okay, look at that. Look at that cat just falling and poof. It's so cute. In one frame, it just expands, and then you can see its little head drags upwards. Let's pick a color that shows up a little better. Look at that overlap in the legs. Oh, I think I might have a better jump, so I'll look at the jump afterwards. Actually, that works pretty well. A little far, but we can still see everything. So the character jumps. Yeah, I did see this smear frame. So look at that. The character jumps. You get this really nice straight. Now they are doing something interesting here, where you have this pose. The character is kind of standing legs apart, and when the character jumps, the feet slide backwards. I'm assuming the reason for this is for when the character is running and then you jump, it lines up with the character's legs. But one thing that they're doing very nicely is, even though technically the leg is popping backwards, so the front leg pops back right there, what they're doing is that they're lining the leg up here with the previous pose. So you can see right there how they line up. So it creates this nice line right through both of them. And even, I think it was right here, when you do a turning jump, so the character is standing here, and then you get this pose right there as they anticipate and then jump. Once again, that line of the leg flows between the poses. So we're not losing track of what's happening. We're not just suddenly moving in an odd arc, if that makes sense. Look at this stop even. They land, get that nice straight in there as the whole body comes to a stop, and just shift the weight back onto the back leg there, but onto the jump here. So you get this nice stretch. Everything is stretched out. They're still getting a good silhouette. We can see the knee right here, the foot back there. Exaggerating the squash right through here before coming out, and you get this beautiful overlap in the legs. Look at that. The drags, and then they're just pushing that line of action right through, using the pant legs to add extra drag. If you look at the legs, like right here, I know it's kind of small, but the pant legs are not that loose. It's not like the character is wearing super baggy pants, but as they're falling, they exaggerate it just a little bit right in here. Exaggerate that drag of the pant legs, and it helps to push that arc. It's creating like a miniature smear frame just by pushing the cloth of the pants. Then the hat has this really nice, just it expands up. You get the drag on the tips here that then reverse, and you get this nice settle into there. So nice. It could have easily just gone and then just stayed there, but you get this kind of double motion. And there's that roll. Hey, look, they actually do have multiples right there. That's cool. That roll is actually really fast. It's only, they go down for 1 frame, 2, and then just, it's 3 frames basically. 1, 2, 3, and then straight up. And Animator Joe, thank you so much for the follow. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, that cat is so cute. Let's see, what other clips do we have? I want to start a little later than when I... Yeah, let's try this one. Yeah, this was the run cycle. The cat is adorable. And Marissa, hello! But I have a Maya issue I'd really like to get fixed, and I was wondering if you'd know how to fix it. Oh, definitely. Well, ask the question now, and depending on what it is, we might get to it right away, because get those Maya issues fixed as soon as possible. If not, if it's something a little bigger, we might just wait until after the analysis stuff. But feel free to post it right now. So what was this recording for? The problem with the recordings is I do so many of them and then I can't remember what each one is. I think this was just the run cycle. Oh yeah, the idle animation. Look at that. Oh, so nice. Let's focus on that. Beautiful smear frames. Okay, I'm just gonna set the range here. Range start. This is a nice thing with keyframe MP. If you guys have it, you can set the start and end frames of a range. So this way I can just look at the full animation without any other frames before or after, which is very nice for analyzing. Now I wonder if I can actually zoom in. I don't think so. That would be a cool feature. But let's see what happens here. So this is the idle animation. So one thing with idle animations that we don't have to worry about in terms of movement compared to action animation. So things like hitting the jump button, having a character run. With all of those, you can't really put an anticipation. You can't really build up the motion because the character has to react right away to the button press. With this, because it's an idle animation, it can be animated, I guess you could say normally, in the sense of it doesn't need to react quickly. It can be a nice slow animation. It can basically do whatever. The only thing that we have to watch out for with idles is that they can be interrupted at any time. So depending on how you want to do it, that can be a consideration. So the character comes up. We've got this nice motion here. Everything comes through. This medallion zips to their hand right there. You get a little bit of a stretch on it. Good anticipation. The hand's kind of bringing it up, anticipating upwards. And then as it comes down, we have a lot of things moving, but they're making sure that our focus stays on the hand. So what I mean by this is if we look at this frame here. Well, actually, let's look at this one here first. So this is the anticipation to the throw forward. And what we have is this hand coming back. This hand starting to move up already, and the head anticipating back as well. Now on this frame, what we get is this hand continuing its motion, speeding up, the head as well continuing its motion, but the hand with the ball reverses, but not only does it reverse, it moves faster than anything else. Its spacing is very big here. And what this does is it draws our attention to that. Even though other things are moving, our eyes are drawn to the yo-yo, the hand holding it, because of this big fast motion. Then we get the sudden release. If you watch the elbow moves as well, down, and then it just stops, which lets the hand flick forward. And we get that nice offset. So it's not just everything moving at once and everything just kind of doing that. You get the elbow and then the wrist. That's 1, 2. Goes through. Beautiful animation. You get a little bit of an overshoot in the hand, where the hand comes down and then around, goes forward, and then gets dragged back by the yo-yo. So as the yo-yo comes down and the weight starts to pull this way, it pulls the hand down too. Then we get this nice little move back. And this is a nice contrast where the yo-yo is moving screen right. It continues to move screen right, but then the hand pulls screen left. So on one frame, the hand pulls while the yo-yo is still traveling, and that's what causes the yo-yo to then go upwards. It's this hand pull right there. This creates that feeling of a connected movement instead of just the character sitting there and the yo-yo doing its own thing. So it comes up, beautiful smear frames. And if we look at the spacing of it, they're using the smears to push that feeling of acceleration. Look at that. And you get that little bit of a flicker right at the base there. Very nice. And then once again, they have the character start the next motion, not the yo-yo. The yo-yo is just on a string. It's being flung around. So the character spins this. They're just kind of in one pose. And then they start the motion. They start to move forward. And it's so cool. You can just see them like cut the line with their hand right there. The yo-yo is just doing its own thing. Same thing as it was doing before. And then you get this pose right here, which hits the string, cuts it, and suddenly the yo-yo is, since it's no longer on a string, it just continues in the direction that it was going before. Straight up. So cool. And I like how they add a little blink in there, a little reaction as they change their eye direction upwards. And then you get this whole thing. Head turn starts the motion, then the hips, then the foot. So it goes from top all the way to the bottom. Oh, take care, Nicholas. Have a great day. So you get this nice drag. This hand, I drew over top of it. This hand here drags back before coming up and around. You can see the arm is actually back here. The other arm drags as well, and then counters the action. So as everything's moving this way, the other hand is sticking outwards. Creates this nice contrast. Get this beautiful hit. And all throughout this, the ball is just a bouncing ball. The things you learn in class 1. One of the very first assignments you'll ever do learning animation, that's all the ball is right here. It's just a bouncing ball. Knee comes in. Next one there, onto the foot. They really play well with the depth of this. For example, you really feel that leg is overlapping all the different shapes. They're not just kind of flat and always just in a 2D plane. So good. Good line of action even through the character. Yeah. Getting that along with that line. Look at that. Beautiful. You've got a primary line of action that's from the head to the toes, and then this wonderful secondary line which leads right to the sphere. Sphere hits and you get that nice push up or push of the weight going through it. They do a really good job of having things react. So it's the same with like slicing the string, how they're doing the and they pull back. They're not just letting the things happen at the same time. There's something that causes a reaction to happen, and then the reaction happens, which is very, very nice. Even here, like if you just look at these fingers right there, they're down and then they flick upwards, and that flick is what causes the sphere to go over. They're not just staying there with their hands there and then the ball just whoop and goes across it like a ramp. There's actually a flicking motion that comes through. Beautiful anticipation here. Opening up the hand, holding, so that we can see the close. If they just kept the hand kind of closed and then grabbed on, you wouldn't feel the grab. So good. And then all throughout the eye direction is following this so well. They put blinks in and eye darts throughout. So like right here, the eyes follow and then just follow so nicely. And then blink as they react to the catch. Oh, so good. Cat not impressed. Yeah, exactly. See the realism in this. This character is doing something so impressive and awesome, and then the cat is like, whatever. How much more real can you get? Now let's see. There was a question up here. I think it's. I was animating a character, saved it, closed it, and opened it the next day. Now the shoulder, the mesh I'm guessing, is stretched next to the neck when it's not supposed to. I tried to move the shoulder control around, but it doesn't help either. The character is referenced in, and I tried to re-upload her, but it didn't work. It's okay if it's a hard fix. Now, let's see. Now, just as a test, if you were to reference in the character into a new scene and then open, like save it, close it, maybe even add a little animation, just quick animation, does the same thing happen? If so, it might be something with the rig, in which case the rig would need to be fixed. If it's just a scene specific thing, like for some reason this one scene screwed up, and it's just scene specific, then one thing you could try is transferring the animation over from the current rig to a new rig that you reference in. You can do that with the Atom tool in Maya. So if you go to File, make sure I can write that a little bit more clearly. File, Atom. The Atom tool is the animation transfer tool in Maya, and you could use that to transfer all the animation from your old rig onto a new rig and hopefully solve the issue, since updating the reference didn't work. It's not guaranteed, but it's worth a try. And basically what you do is you select all of your controls, go to the Atom tool and export the animation, and you will want to just export it onto your desktop, and then you select your other rig and import the animation over, and you'll just have to use the find replace to change the name of the rig so that the namespace updates. And then Boromark, for the microphone, if you send it to me, just send me a PM with a link to it on the AM site. That would probably be the best way. And then I can work on getting that demo for you as soon as I can. It'll be sooner rather than later, because I know you have to start blocking things in, and you'd want to start blocking it in with the correct correct rigged setup and not have to redo it all over later on. So hopefully that helps. Now let's see, what other animations do we have here? Okay, this one's super far. Let's try to skip the ones that the cat was messing up with. Was this the water? Look at that. It's a little thing, but just the way the character pulls out the watering can, even the arc of it, it could have just gone poop and then just popped into their hands and they water the thing. But no, if you look at it, it starts as a sphere, expands out, and it just moves in an arc downwards, and then you get that little overshoot where it goes down and then back up. It's not much, but it makes it feel so good. That little arcing motion. Then even when it comes back, it doesn't go in a straight line. It hinges on their hand and rotates upwards and then back into their hand. So instead of just kind of going into the hand, it goes around and into the palm. Just such a beautiful little detail. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, I did a little walk cycle and I still feel like there's something off. Could you help me with that? Definitely. We'll do a little bit more analyzing the game here, and then I can take a look at your shot if you'd like. Oops. There we go. So what was it here that I wanted to look at? I think it was just the lightning. So the character steps up. Look at that beautiful pose. You've got this super strong line of action here. I know it's kind of hard to see. It's a little small. But not only that, the flow of the other limbs, they all pull off of that main line. So what I mean by they pull off of the main line is that when you're doing a line of action, let's say you do something like this, if you want to create a flowing pose, something that feels like it is graceful, what you want to try and avoid are lines that run into or against the main line of action. So for example, something like this. I see this quite often with like new students where they'll make their line of action, which is very nice, but then the other limbs are going to kind of just jut out or stick into that line. So you'll have kind of a limb there and then another one there, and it creates this very jagged look to it. So instead, what you want to try and do is create a flow. Think of a flower or leaves on a branch, how they pull off and flow with the main portion of it. So you start getting things like this. And if you do this, you can start to offset and create this wonderful pose that has this very nice graceful feeling to it by pulling and creating this kind of natural, I shouldn't say natural, but this organic feeling. Let's see, how do I make a link for my Maya file? If you upload it to your Artella Drive folder, just give me the link to that Artella Drive location. So it would be in your URL bar. Just message me that link and I'll be able to open it. If you didn't have Artella Drive, you could just upload it to Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that, and then send me the link to that. So yeah, it's really just kind of pushing that that flowing feeling. So for example, when you have a pose, let's say like this, where you have the character reaching up and you really want to push that one leg going through here, well, the other leg isn't going to stick out at a 90-degree angle or just flow in the same line here. You could do that, but that just creates a very straight pose. What if you want the leg to come out and create a little bit wider stance? It could be like this, but now you see how that just runs into the line. We want to flow off of the line, so we pull that and go this way. And it's not a huge difference. It's not night and day, but it keeps the flow of the pose, the organic feeling of it, that much more interesting. So even the arm down here, we take this line and we pull off of it, and we get something like that. So it's really just watching how that line of action flows with your other limbs. And here they're even pushing it a little bit more, where the shoulder is coming down, but then the other arm is up here a little bit more. But it's still nice flow. That lightning effect is so cool. Now this is something I need to take time to learn myself, is how to do effects animation. So lightning, doing like water, fire, stuff like that. I know some basics of it, but I am by far not an expert. I need to do some research on that. And I know Cameron actually has some books on how to animate things like this, which I need to borrow and study. Is it really a rule that the line of action should always follow the support leg? No, not at all. The support leg is often where the line of action follows, because when we support ourselves, that's where all our weight pushes from. So for example, if you're going to do a jump and you're going to leap forward here, well, all of your energy is pushing down into that leg. Or another way to look at it is your leg is pushing you forward. So because of that, all that energy has to flow into that leg. Your line of action is pushing that energy through. That's what creates that flow. Same thing with, let's say, you're going to do a big punch. The line of action is going to be where the energy is going towards in that punch. Now, when you throw the punch, you might have your shoulder here, and the legs, if you're going to go like a really strong punch, that line of action is going to go from there down, typically into the leg that's pushing forward to allow you to punch. So is it a rule that it has to be? No. It just more likely is because of how the physics work. It's the line of action will follow the area that has the most energy. That's really what the line of action is. One way to think about it, the gesture of the pose is where the energy is flowing through the pose. So hopefully that makes sense. And maybe we can find a good example here somewhere. Let's see. Let's take a look at this fishing one. So as the character is fishing here, that's so cool. Again, really nice effects, the way it just blows up here. So cool. But the line of action if we kind of look at it through here, it's kind of hard to see, but it goes through the character and then down into this leg. Well, that's the leg that's forward. So if you imagine kind of sitting down and then trying to push yourself back, usually whatever leg is more forward is going to be where you're pushing the most weight, unless it's up into the air. So that's where the energy is flowing into right now, into there. So it's flowing in there. Now, as soon as that leg comes up here, that leg is now kicking upwards. So the line of action starts to come up like this. You also have a secondary line that's going here. And this is the other thing with line of action is typically in animation we talk about the line of action, the one line of action. There is often one line of action, but there is often secondary or tertiary lines. So other lines in the pose that are just as important, but in different ways. So typically the main line of action is where the energy is flowing through the character. So in this case, I would say the main line of action is not in the legs, actually. This would be the main line of action in this moment, because the arm is the thing that's being swung backwards. The secondary line would be here. So once again here, the arm is swinging forward. This would be the primary line of action. Right through there. So line of action, it's not a concrete concept in the sense of it always has to go from toes to head. The line of action could go from arm to arm. It could go from arm to toes. It could go arm to head. It's wherever the energy is flowing. And then you have secondary and tertiary lines which help to add to that flow, if that makes sense. Look at that nice straight in the arm there. Right through there. Great hand pose. And the cat, totally uninterested. Doesn't care. Yes, this is the hugging one. This is the one I was looking for, I think. Okay, yeah, this is also the door opening here. Look at that. They don't have to add this. The character could literally have the door open and the character would just need to switch from this plane here to this plane here, wherever they're standing. They would just have this little foop and then they're there. And no one would really notice. It would be super easy to animate. But they go through the extra effort of adding these frames where the character pushes open the door. You actually feel the pressure of the fingers as the character pushes their hand against the door. And then the hand comes back in. It's curling in as they blink and look in their new surroundings. And this is a wonderful little touch, that blink right there. Because when you go through a door, oftentimes if you actually watch people walk through a door, they tend to blink when they walk through a door because there's a new environment in front of them. So you'll open the door and then you'll blink and you'll look around. They didn't have to add that, but they did. And it just creates this little touch that just feels so right. And it's not that long either. The whole thing is what? 69 to, we'll say 83. So 24 frames. Keep in mind this is playing at 30 frames per second, so less than a second. But it adds so much. Okay. Hug that cat in a place that I can see. Darn it. Okay. I know there's a hug somewhere in here. I also wanted to look at that run animation. Look at that. So I was talking about the straights earlier. When you're doing a run, can the cat open the door? Yes. So this is actually a 2-player game. One person can control Stella, the main character. Another person can play the cat, which is really cool. And the cat can do everything that the person can do. Excuse me. So I would love to try this game 2-player and just see how it works out. It would be interesting to see what all the cat animations can do, because when you're not playing the cat actually doesn't do that much in terms of animation. But when you play with the cat, like I was doing at the beginning, accidentally, the cat will actually like have these animations here where it climbs up with you. It jumps, and then look at that stretch pose, and then it climbs back up, claws its way up. But then my favorite, where is it? Is right here. When it's falling, it's kind of slow fall, is it just puffs up and then just hovers down, which is just adorable. Wonder if I don't think I have a long one of it. There we go. So it just hovers down slowly. Like, this is cool. They're using their hat as a parachute. The cat just flops up into a ball and hovers down. But let's take a look at this run here. So if we look at the main mechanics of the run, they're doing a lot of very interesting things. One is that they're pushing the hip motion quite a bit. So if we count this as the contact here, the hips are easing into the ground a little bit. So contact, down a little bit, and then down, it drops. So we get that bouncing ball effect, where the spacing is slow and then fast. Very good. But then the very next frame, the hips pop out. They launch forward, which is normally not what we tend to do in a realistic walk, because there's a lot of, or a realistic run, because there's a lot of weight to our body. When we run, it's very hard to just push forward like that. There's going to be a little ease out. They cut out the ease. Is that bad? Not at all. They're exaggerating it. It creates a more dynamic spacing. Instead of having everything just linear, moving forward here, they have this push forward that then slows a little bit, and then the next step goes fast, and this just breaks it up. Now the key here is that when you're animating that, what you want to avoid is the character feeling they start and stop, start and stop, start and stop, which they're not doing here. If you actually watch the spacing of the face as the character goes forward, I'm gonna go every 2 frames here. Even though there's this big pop in the hips, the spacing is even. You see that it's not popping forward and back. How do they do that? Because obviously we see that there's a big spacing here. Big spacing change there. Well, they actually do something really cool, which is that they only use it occasionally. So you'll notice here, big spacing, forward. But then look at the rest. There's the down right there that we were seeing before. But then bend and straight. Bend and straight. They add an extra frame in there. So when you have that first initial push off, so right here, there's this kind of like initial energy. But then afterwards, it's a normal run for a little bit. So it's not happening all the time. Let's see. Maybe if the camera would be following her hips, maybe we'd see a pop. No. So even if we watch the hips, there's not really that much of a pop right there. What they're doing is they're only using that pop for certain moments. So we'll feel that pop in certain areas to get that feeling of the character starting to push forward. But then it's gone. And I just realized I forgot to change the name on the game. On the title here. Oh well. You know, actually it's gonna bother me. I totally forgot that was a thing on the stream. There we go. Much better. See, is it random or specific areas the spring happens? I think it's whenever when you start to move. Because here you can see I run for a ways and it doesn't happen. There's always that little ease there. Let's see what happens here. This turn is so cool. Look at that. Even the shirt billowing, the pants billowing. It's so nice. The hat has this beautiful S curve. Yeah. It seems like it might just happen randomly because I've seen it a few areas. Now, another thing could be that it's just the capture might have skipped a frame, or the animation itself might have skipped a frame to keep up. But even then, they are really pushing this motion. Billowing. B-I. So it's billow. So billowing is like cloth. Bellowing is yelling. This would be like a bull bellows. But they've got this beautiful motion in the legs. Beautiful arcs through the feet. You get this kind of upwards, down there, down. It comes up a little bit again before coming down. So the arc of the leg is doing this, kind of a bean shape, which is correct. The arms really hold. I've talked about this before. When you want to make a run feel visually interesting and not just feel like it's constant motion, hold the extremes a little bit more. If you watch the holds here, let's look at the arms first. So the arms start to move here. We can see the one arm moving back there, the other one kind of moving back here. They come through, and so let's see, that's on frame 251. And then right here at 254, they've already almost reached their peaks. And then they really ease in there before down again. So from 251 to about, I would say 254, they make it most of the way from the hole. So in 3 frames. Then from 254 to about 261, so about 7 frames, they are moving. They're not just frozen, but they're just staying in this extreme. So it hits here, holds, comes back, and then holds, comes back, holds, come back. So that extreme stays there for a lot longer. The extreme holds for 7 frames. The motion is only 3. That is nice because it makes it so that we can read the arm poses clearly instead of just doing this all the time where the arms are just moving constantly. If they're just doing this and never stopping, never holding, it's boring compared to this, 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 that creates a much better feeling in a run. Same thing with the legs. So if you watch the knees, they actually reach to the top here. So let's say about there, 254. And it just holds up here for 3 frames. It doesn't need to. The leg could have easily just gone straight back down, right into here. But no, they made sure to keep that knee up high for a little bit. This allows us to register that the character, it's almost like creating an anticipation. Hold up, and then the leg reaches down to the ground. It's not as much as the arms, because the legs kind of have to keep moving, or else the character is going to trip. So if you look at the feet, for example, the feet never stop moving unless they're on the ground. They have to continually arc around, but you can exaggerate where the knee placement is to give that feeling of a hold. Then looking at the cat, it's just so cute. Look at that. Its little feet are all together, and then get that stretch pose. They really studied cat motion here. Really getting those arcs in the body, the stretch, and the squash. This is something when people first start animating cats, they don't realize is how stretchy they are. Cats are amazingly stretchy. When you watch them run, they compress to about, like, some cats like half their length. Their spine just curves up and collapses in, and then you get this big long stretch. Is why when you look at a cat, sometimes when people hold up their cats like by the under the arms and the cats just stretch out, the cat looks so super long, is because cats' spines are actually pretty long. They just bunched up naturally. Yeah, that picture right there, that's pretty much it. If for anyone who's tried to move a cat, you know this. You know how you try to move a cat and it's like somehow you're moving them around, but they are not moving. They are stuck in place. And let me actually, I don't know if I can share this. No, oh dang it. Can't share the picture on screen. No. Curses. I need to adjust my setup so that it works. Oh dang it, I can't even drag it in there. Well, you can see it in the link, hopefully. Let's see. Having a hard time deciding on this one. Is it okay to animate along with 3D walk cycle tutorial or turn it in it as own? Do you mean so just following a tutorial on how to do a walk? Definitely, like if you want to try it, do it. Following along with tutorials is totally fine. Especially when you're learning, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you are using it for a final submission for either school or for a work project, especially work project, you wouldn't want to do that. You would want to follow along first, learn what it is, how to do the thing, and then from there, make your own. So one of the things that I would do when I was a student, first learning animation, is I would find tutorials. Let's say a walk cycle, but it would be a pendulum, it would be a ball bounce, anything. And I would basically just copy what they did. Just follow along exactly, copying along, even like matching the values down to the percentage or to the like decimal point. And I would try to get it as close as possible, and I would watch and try to think, why am I doing this? What is the point of putting this value in here? What is the point of the graph editor looking like this? And I would study and analyze why. Then I would try to do it all on my own. So I would record some reference and then look at my reference, try to understand where my poses should be, and then try to redo that walk, but this time with my own, like without looking at the tutorial, putting my own values, putting my own touch on it. And this way you learn what you needed to do, what the graph editor should look like, what the value should look like, how the movement should work. But now you're making your own version of it. So especially when you're doing something for production, let's say, there are times when even now I'm trying to learn something for a production. Maybe like recently it's been doing XGen hair in Maya. So actually doing actual hair in Maya, not like a polygon that looks like hair. No, actual strands of hair. I've been learning how to do that. And I've been following a lot of tutorials, but for the final product, I'm not just going to copy the numbers from a tutorial. I'm going to be making my own, making it for this specific scene. I'm not going to copy from, like, there's some presets in Maya that you can use. I'm not going to be just taking one of those and then kind of going, haha, done. So it's a matter of, it's okay to copy for your own sake, but then you want to expand on it and make it your own. That's what's going to make you like even better all the time. How did you go through AM without your and Cameron's demos? I follow every single one of them. We had older demos that were, well, I'll just put it this way, they were older. And sometimes there was some information missing. And back in those days, like when I was an animation student, this was like when YouTube was just starting. Online videos weren't really a thing. I still remember a lot of the videos that we used to watch. It's like tiny little, like, think of a video the size of like post-it note, like just a tiny little square video online, and you're trying to look at what values, like what did they put in Maya, what was that, you try to expand it, it's all 5 pixels so you can't see anything, and it's like, I can't make it out, I think it's this. No HD videos back then. It was so weird. Like thinking back, I don't know how we did it. Could you follow their steps as long as you don't copy their values? Yeah, you could follow their steps. Again, when you're making it your own, you would want to try to do it yourself without, how to put this, so you're still following their steps. So like, for example, the steps of a vanilla walk are, you do a contact pose, you do your down pose when the hips go down, you do your passing pose when the legs pass each other, you do the up pose where the hips are at their highest, then you do the contact pose again when the foot contacts the ground, and you repeat that. Those are the steps of a vanilla walk, and for most walks actually. Now, with that said, that is, if you were to copy this, that is not a bad thing. That is the mechanics of a walk. Now, if you were to, like, let's say, watch a tutorial and you see this pose here in the walk, and you then take your shot and go, okay, I'm gonna copy this, and you're looking at it like pixel by pixel and going, okay, my pose is going to be right here, and okay, look at the other shot, okay, and my leg is going to be right there, okay, and okay, my foot's going to be right here, and what's the angle of the toes, okay, it's going to be right here. That's getting a little towards the copying side. So it's that difference between understanding the steps to create something and then doing it yourself versus copying. And actually, let me show another way you can do this, another way to think about it. Let me open this up here super quick, because it is a good this is a very good topic, because it's a gray line. It's a very gray line, but let's see here. I like the music. I need to, okay, let me add something here. We're going into tech mode here in just a little bit, where I need to capture my display. Boop, there we go. Oh no, my face. There we go. So I'm going to, let's say I want to learn how to draw something. The same thing. When you're learning how to draw, when you're learning how to animate, it's a similar process. We're studying and then trying to apply things. And let's say I want to learn how to draw Sir Fuego. So this is a character my brother made. This is actually one of his paintings, one of my brother's paintings. And let's say I want to start learning how to draw Sir Fuego. Well, there's a few steps we can do. The first one is study. Now, studying can involve master studies, which is when you really try to analyze how things work. They can involve anatomy studies, all sorts of different things. So, for example, let's say I want to do a master study of Sir Fuego here. Well, a master study might be me actually tracing and going, okay, how does his nose work? Okay, there's this forehead. Okay, I'm noticing a flat here. And I'm not just tracing. I'm not just going, okay, curve, head. Okay, done. Haha, yay, I've got it. No, every step of the way, I'm analyzing. This is the same thing you do with animation. If you're copying the animation, is you're not just copying it, you're understanding why. So for example, I want the forehead, and yes, my brother created this character, and he's got a whole comic thing that he's trying to create with this as well, which is really cool. So I see, okay, the head, there's a little roundness there, it goes flat. Okay, now he's got his cranium right here that goes back, and then there's the cheek. Okay, so I'm starting to see the forms that come into making this character. How high are his eyebrows to his head? How far do they go to the back? Okay, so I'm tracing, but I'm trying to understand why. What are the shapes? You've got the form of the cheek here, and his cheek actually presses towards his mouth, which then you get the mouth there. Okay, how wide is his neck? What's the curvature of the neck? The front of the neck is actually very straight, whereas the back is kind of bent there. I'm doing these master studies. Okay, that's okay. I would never post these though. I would never post these master studies as an assignment or as a final product because it is literally copying. Once you've done that, now you can start to, you start understanding the steps. Okay, his head is basically a circle. Then you get the circle for the cheek and the big thing for the nose. Good. Now, when I want to create my own thing, what I want to do is I don't want to trace, but I also don't want to copy. So what I mean by copy is, let's say, okay, now I'm going to draw my own, or I'm going to animate my own. What I'm not going to do is go, okay, let's draw my own version. And I'm looking at the original and going, okay, there's the line. There's the forehead. Okay, the nose is right here. The nostril is, let's say, right there. This is still a master study. Even though I'm not doing it on top of the other, I'm still copying the original. That's not right. Instead, I want to take the steps that I learned from before and just create my own thing. So hide the original and go, okay, let's say I want him to maybe we have him sitting down and looking down at something. Well, we've got the head. It's a sphere for the top of the head. You've got the cheek here, and then you've got the nose. Well, the nose is, he's going to be looking down a little bit. Maybe we'll have the other eye here. And I'm just using the steps that I've learned from how he was created to now create my own picture with him. And the reason this is important is now, instead of having to always be reliant on creating something based on the original, I can now create that own understanding in my head and create any pose that I want with him. Same with the walk. Once you understand the fundamentals of the walk and you start applying them to any walk, you can animate any walk. That's what you want. You'd never want to be reliant on, well, the only way I can animate a walk is if I have an existing one there and I can copy it or trace it or follow along with it. That defeats the purpose of learning. The point of learning is so that you can do it on your own afterwards. So now I can start I'm not going to do this well. I'm not very good at drawing Sir Fuego. I should ask Cameron to help me learn how to draw him. Now, with that said, I can always come back in here and go, okay, where am I going off here? The eyebrows are okay. The eye, let's see. I'm going to move this drawing as well. So you can always use reference. So for example, the eye, I'm noticing that he's got this kind of like line right here, and the nose is a little lower. So I drew the nose a little too high right there. There we go. That's better. And then it kind of curves in there. But you can see it's a totally different angle that I'm drawing at. And we get that rounder cheek. It's a little rounder there. There we go. And then let's get that eye in there. So this is kind of the key, is the difference between tracing, copying, master studies, and then actually learning so that you can do it on your own. Hopefully that makes sense. So in the case of the walk, like understanding how to do the contact down, passing up contact, and understanding that fundamental, how the hips go, what's the side to side of the hips, what are the rotations doing on the hips. That's similar to understanding here how to draw a circle, how to create this like nose piece, where to put the eyes. I understand how the pieces work together, and now I can draw the character at any angle. So maybe what happens if he's looking away? What would his nose be over here? So by understanding those forms, those fundamentals of a walk, of a ball bounce, of drawing a character, you can then create your own. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Let's see. Where were we here? We were looking at something. Oh yeah, I did want to see this one. Look at the cat on his shoulder. There's a moment where there's a double cat. So cute. Wrapped around there. Even here, like, all they would have had to do was loop this animation. Have this character paddle here, and then just repeat the same animation, fade it out. No, they actually have him animated, or have her animated so that she switches the paddle into her other hand. So you can see the hand over here lets go. It's actually down here now. And both hands are on the paddle there. And then the one hand moves up. It's very hard to see because it's fading out, but they actually have the character switching hands to paddle properly. The attention to detail, oh, so good. And that loading screen there. Let me see. How do I want to do this? I need to do that. So that little animation there, look at it. It's adorable. This is definitely something they must have referenced their own cat or something. It's just so cute. the hair on the tail, how it drags across. So good. And it's all silhouette, which is even harder to animate. So nice. Yep. I wanted to bring back my camera. That's what I want to do. Boop. There we go. Now, actually, just on the run here, another thing I wanted to talk about, we talked about the arms, the legs, is the overlap in the hat. It's not a big thing, overlap. We try to put it wherever, but look at how well they're doing this. You have the down pose where the hat is at its highest here. It's really dragging back. Then as the character comes up, the whole hat just flattens down on their head. You've got everything dragging down. And then from there, it S's up. So it's not just kind of going from here and then just flipping completely. You get this, and then the back starts to come up, and then the tip goes up. So it's getting this little wave through the whole thing. And then drags back up here and repeats. So good. Yeah. That game, I can't wait for the full thing. I want to know what happens. I think I'm running out of time here, so I do want to look at one more animation, which is the double jump. Oh, yeah, end it in this moment here. How do you create a photo image on a plane to make a photo paper prop? Do you mean like in Maya? So you want to take a polygon plane and put it on there? You would use a texture. So you would create a polygon plane and then just apply a material, a texture onto it in the color value of its material. You could also create an image plane by going to, I believe it's create, I think it's just create image plane. And you can just add an image into that if you just want a pure image plane. You can't really animate it like you would with a polygon plane, but that could work as well. If you're going to use it as a prop, I would probably use a polygon plane, just because it'll be a little bit more, you'll be able to manipulate it a little bit more. So let's take a look at this. This is so well animated. Look at the face. So much expression. And then the cat's tail. Oh, I didn't notice the cat. Look at it. The character here, with her, the amulet or whatever, it spins around her. It's lifting her up in the air. There's this wonderful magical, like, you have this wonderful squash. Everything's in a ball, and then beautiful stretch, and the arms come out. Look at that. So dynamic. The drag on the hair, the drag on the pants. It's just so magical. And then you look at the cat. And this little ball of light swoops in and literally picks up the cat. And the cat just gets dragged up into the air, hanging on this little ball. Before it slips off, and then you have the cat. Its legs are just kind of blasted out on unwillingly to the side. And then it's got this this pose there. Tries to catch on again. Oh, so good. Not nearly as graceful. So good. I think there was one frame where you could see two of them. Yeah, right there. You can see the other hat. And then the double jump. I did want to take a quick look at that. Yeah, look at that double jump. So cool. So you have the character jump. We talked about this earlier. Nice straight line of action going through the line. Even the line in the other leg here, this one, lines up with the fist. So everything kind of pushes through. This arm here comes back there. So it's creating these wonderful triangles, which just create more motion, more it pushes our eye to focus on where the character is going versus just limbs in every direction. If, for example, that arm that's back here, you could place it wherever you wanted. You could place it maybe back here as the character is jumping. But the problem is now this creates two lines. It creates a line down here with, if you follow that leg, and now a line back here, which creates an image that is very unfocused, I guess you could say. We want all of the audience's attention over in this way, in this direction where the character is jumping. So, to help with that, they just move the arm down. And now you can see how that focuses the image there and allows it to widen up at the top, bring our attention over here. It's the same thing as when you're posing out eyes. So if you have a character looking in a direction, you really want the audience to look in that direction. You don't just keep the eyes in the same size and just looking over and the brows just even. That's not interesting. You open it up. You do this. So one eye would be a little smaller. The other eye would be bigger. Something like that. And now that leads the eye. That's what they're doing with this pose. They're leading the eye forward so that the audience or the player isn't brought back to the back behind the jump. They want to expand it outwards. When you're posing hands, do you use the Master Cup spread controls, or is it best to pose each finger? I pose every finger. Well, let me put it this way. I will pretty much never use any master control except for one, which is, if your rig has it, the Master Cup control. That's the control that bends the hands this way. This helps give the curvature of the knuckles, because knuckles are not flat. Knuckles are curved, round. So you want to round those out. You can do it manually, but I find the Master Cup works pretty well because those knuckles tend to move kind of together. For everything else, I pose the hands manually. I will never use a master grip. So if you have one control that closes the hand like this, no, never use it. If there's a master spread doing that, no, never use it. It's only the control that controls those knuckles right here. Not the fingers, just the knuckles. So that's my preference. Some people do like to use master controls. I find all it does is it leads to boring hand poses, or I would have to pose it with a master control and then repose the fingers anyway to make it interesting. So it's either boring or I have to counter animate a lot of stuff, which neither of which I want to do. So I would just rather pose everything out manually and get the exact pose I want. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's take a look at this. So jumps up, you get this secondary anticipation here, and then pops up. And it's so cool. Just the hands kind of coming in together like that. And the whole pose just stretching out. Look at it. It's like they're swimming in midair. And then the hands start to come downwards, arcing in. So nice. Then you get a nice flip, a little bit of a smear on the sleeves there, and then whew, the hat comes out. So good. I would love to see what the cat's double jump is. Did I? What was this last one? Oh yeah, the hug. Look at that. So caring. What other game lets you just hug people? They use a lot of squash and stretch. Like right here, this effect right there. If you imagine, it's just a bubble behind the images that stretches and inflates them. So you can kind of see it right here. How it's basically a bubble right there that's inflating and deflating and gives this nice feeling of squash and stretch without having to animate it all by hand. And then, aw, look at that. I like how you can, the hand moves first and then the smile starts. And the cat, of course, is bored. Look at that cat. There's no frames here, it just goes straight out. Look at the cat. Is falling asleep. Its eyes close and then it just falls over. And its paw just sweeps over. It's such a floofy cat. Oh, so cute. Oh shoot, it's already 11. So unfortunately I wanted to actually dive into, I know most of this was just, oh look at that, oh look at that. I wanted to dive into more of the whys and hows of what makes these feel so good. Unfortunately I don't have the time today. I did want to just point out here, one thing that they're doing very well is that they are easing out very nicely of this motion. So you can see it's a little ease right there, a little faster. They're dragging the fur back to where it used to be. Just every point of fur is just kind of point to where it was before. And then suddenly the cat, spacing gets much bigger. And then it eases just a little bit right in the end here. Which in this case is not bad because even though it's fallen asleep, it hasn't just totally passed out. So it would be able to catch itself a little bit. They don't have it ease too much though. It's just a little tiny bit. Basically it's the difference between you ease out, you get faster, really fast, and then doing this where it just kind of really cushions in, and doing this where you ease out really fast, and then so it's really fast here and then just a little slower there. That's it. Technically that's still an ease in, but it's not going to be as noticeable as if you do this where it really eases and then comes in there. Or you could also do this where you really get a big spacing and then that ease is just absolutely, it hits a wall basically. So it's okay. Oh, is it froze? Hello, did it freeze? I'm not sure. My end seems okay, but I'm never sure with my internet, unfortunately. It's fine for me. Okay. Whew. So I think with that, I'm gonna actually have to call it here just because I have to. Oh no, wait. I want to see the oven mitts. I want to see the oven mitts. Curse me and my need to see the animations. Look at that. Just lifts the hands and then it splits off into two. And just wraps the hand. I love this little eye dart. Right there. Just looking at the oven mitt. And then boop, back to the other one. That's such a nice touch. And then the blink after they're done. They didn't have to do that, but it really makes the character feel like they're actually reacting to this thing instead of just boom, and then they go in. That little blink before, eye dart, blink. And the way you can, I know I've talked about blinks before, but really it's a blink will happen for typically one of three main reasons. There are other reasons, but one of three main ones. One, it's just to moisten your eyes, so your eyes are getting dry and you'll blink. That's pretty much it. That's one of the core reasons for blinking, is just making sure our eyes don't dry out. This means that if your character is standing there for a long period of time, maybe it's time to add a blink. And if they're nervous, they'll blink more because their eyes are drying out a little faster. Okay, that's number one. Number two is a eye direction change or a focus change. So I'm looking in one direction, blink, look at another thing. So it gives the feeling that the character is refocusing. Whenever we do large head motions, we tend to blink, except for extreme cases or extreme focus. If I'm really focused on something, I won't blink. The third reason is a thought change. So something is giving a new thought or a new process on our head, in our head. So you're doing something and, oh, wait, did I forget to do that? Or someone comes up and talks to you and maybe you were focused on something and they go, hello, and you have to blink and go, oh, hi. Because you're now thinking of something else. In this case, I would say that that first blink right here is a little bit more on that sense of they're doing their thing and then blink, let's get some oven mitts. So they're changing their thought process of doing whatever. Oven mitts, that's what I need. And then it's 1, 2, blink, I'm ready to go. So it's changing that thought process right through here. And then the blink, yes, I'm good. So by adding those blinks in there, they are making it so that the character feels alive and that they're thinking and not just doing nothing. So, really well done there. And even here, like, look at that. Look at that smear. Oh, so good. And then the overshoot, it goes up and then down and settles into this nice stretch here. I wonder what the cat would look like taking things out of the oven. And smear down again. That's so cool.